Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Eric Hernandez and you are listening to episode, I believe it's 652. I don't know why I do like these arm movements when I'm sitting here in the studio by myself, but I'm trying to get myself animated and moved, especially after doing the show. I just got off the phone with Doug and we're both tired. We're both old men at this point, so deal with it. But on this episode, we talk about recent news that there will be a combination or a bundling, or however you want to call it, of sorts between streaming platforms. And that's Disney Plus, HBO Max, and I'm blanking on the third one off the top of my head. But that's all to say that some of the different streaming platforms are now joining forces to mitigate some of the losses. So we touch upon the streaming wars. We go back to the cable wars as far as different competition on networks and cable TV. And just how it's been playing out and how silly and ridiculous some of it is, and how it's very telling of our current situation as far as streaming and being able to watch something. And we reiterate to you, if you're able to buy a physical copy of your favorite movie, do so. It may not get back to the actual artist that you love or enjoy, but at the very least, you'll have a copy of something that you love. For me, cases that I mentioned on the show, the Transformers animated movie. I loved it since I was a child. I still love it. They're celebrating 40 years for Transformers. It's one of those things that for me is a it's a comfort thing to be able to watch. The Crow with Brandon Lee is another version of that. I know there's a new version of the movie coming out soon, but I just bought a recent Blu-ray copy of the film, even though there's an anniversary copy coming out, which I might also get. But we say, buy the things that you love, hold on to them, because you never know if you can find it online. And as far as tech is concerned, we also drop in a little PSA. Hey, if you have something that you love, TV, computer, tablet, phone, and you want to hold on to it, sure. If you can find the means to keep it running, maintain it, repair it, whatever the case is, do that as well. Because otherwise, the idea of if it's broke, just buy a new one. Sometimes it works. Most times you're better off just holding on to the old stuff. But that's your mileage may vary. So we'll get into all that and much more with this episode. We are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can find us under the different sections over there. Games, comics, TV, wrestling, movies. Check us out. Also check out the show over at Rabblecast.libsyn.com where the show is directly uploaded. Check out our YouTube channel at Rabblecast. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast. Email us, rabblecast@gmail.com, and make sure you visit our Rabblecast Facebook fan page. And also for listeners, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, where the show has generally been, uploaded for free, the show is also available over on Spotify as well. We're up there with all the other shows that you can get and take with you on the go. So that's it. It's a fun one. It was interesting to see where this one's going to start off as far as the streaming wars and then where we delve into. But I think Doug and I both enjoyed the conversation. But by the end of it, we're both exhausted, so I'm not going to hold you up anymore. Let's get into it. Enjoy the show.
I think that was 10 seconds.
Yes, sir, it was.
All right.
For anybody playing at home, today has been one hell of a day as far as setup and getting the show going.
It's a lot of gaffes, a lot of technical difficulties, and a lot of tomfoolery. But hey, what are you going to do? These things happen.
Well, it's funny because people are like, oh, what goes into making a podcast, or how do you do a show? It's just sitting down and talking, right? Yeah, that's the main thrust of it. But there's a lot of stuff going on. You have to make sure the room is quiet enough. You have to make sure you're comfortable because you're going to be sitting for, half hour or more, depending on your show, and make sure all the other stuff's going on. Once again, if anybody's been listening to the show for quite some time, over the various different areas we've set up to record, my home gets warm in the spring and summer. And I don't have central air. So if I want to have something that cools off the room, I have to have a loud ass AC unit that you're going to hear in the background. And I think we've had at least one or two episodes where we had it on in the background and it just does not work out.
Mm-hmm.
So now it comes down to leaving the ceiling fan on and opening up the window and hoping that the neighbors aren't going to be speeding by with their little modified mufflers on their sports cars. So otherwise you're going to be hearing. But, setting up the space, making sure that we can hear each other. And then right now we just had an issue where we were trying to call one another because now we do this remotely. Spoilers for anybody who doesn't catch on at this point. And we were getting a little buzz or background noise that really wasn't noticeable in this end, but it just made the call a little difficult to make happen. That's pretty much the rundown of it. So a lot of stuff goes into orchestrating what we do, which seems like a mindless chatter and banter back and forth, but with all the different setups, we do it. We do it for you. Well, and so we can hear the conversation going on. Even right now, I'm gonna adjust my microphone again. So, fuck. How the hell are you, sir?
I'm tired. How are you?
I'm in the same boat. I absolutely. Just a lot of nonsense going on, and very much looking forward to the weekend and getting stuff done. Although this weekend's going to be kind of busy, from what I was just talking with Jen earlier. So we have to see what's going on there. So
Don't forget what Sunday is.
Mother's Day. Yes.
Yep.
So that in itself, it's going to be taking up a lot of time for us as far as like what we're doing, what we're going to be, getting together with family, and obviously celebrating the ladies who've, brought us into the world and also take care of us. So It's going to be, fun filled, packed. We'll see what happens. I'm going to start off with a quick little news bit that I was reading recently that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But we've talked about streaming wars in the past with, you've got Netflix, you've got Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, Peacock, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, or just Max now, depending how you want to say it. But all these different streaming platforms all have their own, shows that are either specifically for that channel or network, because that's where all this started from, back on the cable wars, to now streaming platforms. And now apparently there's going to be a amalgamation of Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery. Have you heard about this?
No, that's news to me.
Okay, I can't bring it up on my tablet right now because it's revolting against me. But I am going to bring it up on my phone. So sorry for the side chatter that's going to happen right now, but it's necessary. And okay, here we go. Disney. Yes, Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery combined for a new Disney Plus, Hulu, and they say Max, but it's HBO Max streaming bundle.
Okay.
Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery are combining to release a new streaming bundle featuring Disney Plus, Max, and Hulu as both companies fight over heavy losses. The new bundle, which will be available in ad-supported and ad-free versions, will combine of the most popular streaming shows available today, including The Bear, Shogun, House of the Dragon, and of course, Bluey, for all you Disney fans out there. The official release highlights ABC, CNN, DC, Discovery, Disney, Food Network, FX, HBO, HGTV, Hulu, Marvel, Pixar, Searchlight, Warner Brothers, and more as part of the offering. Disney direct-to-customer president Joey Early said the new bundle will offer customers even more choice and value. No, let's just correct that right off the top here. You're not giving us more choice and value. You're just rehashing other streaming platforms and combining them together, you bastards. This incredible new partnership puts subscribers first, giving them access to blockbuster films, originals, and 3 massive libraries featuring the very best brands in entertainment and streaming today. Disney and Warner Brothers did not reveal the price of the new bundle. It follows the announcement of a new sports service in February that will be offering combined offerings from ESPN, Warner Brothers, and Fox. Warner Brothers is set to announce its earnings tomorrow, with another price hike said to be on the way for HBO Max. Both
Jesus.
Disney, yeah, both Disney Plus and Max have struggled to retain subscribers amid rising prices. Back in February, Disney revealed that its service had lost 1.3 million subscribers. Max, for its most part, lost 2.5 million subscribers in 2023. The losses are part of a greater reckoning for the streaming landscape as formerly optimistic entrants raise prices and merge, with Paramount potentially on the verge of being acquired. During Disney's earnings call earlier this week, CEO Bob Iger said that Marvel would be capping new movies at a minimum of 3. For movies, it was 3 projects a year, and for TV series, 2. Disney Plus, Max, and Hulu bundle does not yet have a release date. For more, check out the coverage on blah, 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 blah. This, by the way, I should mention this is from IGN.com, this article. So if anybody wants to go check out there and find out more information, as I put my phone somewhere safe, Paramount and Peacock, I think it was about a month ago, I had heard that they're going to be merging, possibly. So anybody who's looking to get either one of those, you might want to hold off because you're going to get 2 for the price of 1, essentially, although they might raise the price just to make it a little bit more affordable for them. Now, that's also going to include some shows there as well. It's funny now, if you have Disney Plus, I have on, a Marvel movie in the background as we record.
Which one?
I'm watching Avengers Endgame again.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I've been on an Avengers kick again. I've watched the others throughout the week, just as I'm doing other stuff in the living room. But if you turn on your Disney Plus and you go to your dash or your home page in the app, normally you get all your Disney stuff, all your cartoons, all your movies, different series that are coming out, some National Geographic stuff. For us, it would be like, Marvel movies, the new X-Men 97. Obviously, Bluey is a very popular cartoon for kids and for some adults. And there's just a whole bunch of things there. But then recently, we've been seeing that Hulu has been popping up here as well. Since Disney has a stake in Hulu's platform, they're now sharing content over. So we watched a show called The Rookie. It's a police drama / comedy. I can't remember which network it shows up on, but it shows up on Hulu, and now it's popping up on Disney Plus. But you're also getting a bunch of other movies and content that would not really fall under the Disney family friendly umbrella, I guess you can say. So you're getting some movies and some other stuff that you're like, oh, that's out of left field. That doesn't seem to be mixing well. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but it seems for the most part right now that although we were trying to get away from the cable wars where all the different networks were trying to vie for your attention and primetime programming and slotting different shows and comedies and news and sports and talk shows, now that's all transitioned over to streaming platforms because now they're doing the exact same thing, just that now the idea of trying to slot something in for like 8 o'clock prime time, that's not as viable anymore because everybody just watches on their own terms. But they are trying to pull you in with certain originals, certain movies, certain, whatever you're looking for as far as a movie or a TV show. They're trying to make sure that their platform is the one to go. So like the new John Wick movie, when it's finally released, they want to make sure that you find it on their platform before you go anywhere else. Or whether you rent, buy it, or just watch it for free once it becomes available. I think the recent offering from Sony Pictures, Madam Web, will be hitting Netflix on Tuesday.
Damn, already?
Yeah. I think the movie was released in theaters back in February?
Something like that. Okay. Let me make sure I'm not losing my mind.
Sure.
Okay, let's check this out. Okay. So, do you remember back in the olden days, I'm talking like about 20 plus years ago, late 90s, early 2000s?
Sure.
A movie would come out in the theaters. It would be in the theaters for, a couple of weeks to 2 months, depending on how well it did, or sometimes longer if it was a really big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then it would take, 3 to 5 months for it to come out on video and DVD?
A little bit longer, actually, from what I recall.
Okay. Ooh, I can tell you. Okay, here I can tell you the longest one I can remember. Star Wars Episode One: The Phantom Menace, which just celebrated its 25th anniversary.
Hmm.
Um, it was that came out in May of 1999. It didn't come out in video until sometime in late spring of 2000.
Okay.
So that's the longest one I'm aware of. But I do remember a couple of instances where movies would take, you know, 3 to 5, 3 to 5 months. I feel like that was like kind of like the right to summer releases by about October, November, December. They were in the video store, right?
It depends. If it was a solo film, so if it wasn't part of a larger franchise, I think yes, that window did work. But if it was part of a, there were two movies, or if it was a trilogy, I think that release to home was stretched out just a tad because they didn't want to run into the release of a newer film.
Hmm.
They didn't want to like steal their own thunder essentially. Because I remember when the Ninja Turtles movies came out. Now, mind you, the Ninja Turtles movies, the first one especially, was an independent film. So when that came out from New Line Cinema, that had its release. It was huge for the live action movie, and then I want to say it was like 6 to 8 months. Then it came home to theater, to home video, and then they'd already greenlit the production for the next film, and they were trying to get that one in as quickly as possible because they wanted to get, you know, they essentially wanted to make sure that they struck while the iron was hot, because at that point they're like, oh, the cartoon's out, this franchise is probably going to burn out in the next 3 to 4 years, so let's try to make these movies as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
So I
All
think
right.
I think their home video release was like 6 to 8 months after, and then like another 6 months or so they were hoping to get their release for the sequel into the theaters. But I don't remember the release dates off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, I think we're close there. You said what, 3 to 5? I'm saying 6 to 8. So somewhere in the middle there was that common ground of how quickly they wanted to get stuff out so that you can enjoy it at home as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean that's what it was. I mean, you would have to wait for that window so they can get all their box office receipts and say, oh yeah, this movie was a success, or if it did bomb, then hopefully the home video market would then have it give it a second life, whether through rentals or people buying the film once it was available for purchase at that point. A lot of films from there were able to bring in extra receipts as far as then sales are concerned, because now everybody's like, oh, I don't want to go to the theater, I don't want to be around a bunch of noisy people and munching on popcorn and blah 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 blah. But yeah, that was the idea back then. Give it its time to breathe, both in the theaters then at home. But now, especially if it's a bomb, you know if it's a bomb because uh,
Pretty quick, yeah.
it has like less than a month, maybe a month in the theaters, depending on how bad it is, and then they hot shot it over to video on demand, hoping that the first few weeks of it being solely available to purchase or rent will bring in a little extra cash, and then from there they put it on a platform. So normally, being that Madam Web is a Sony Pictures production, because it's in line with their Spider-Verse that they're still trying to I don't know, nurse along at this point, because let's face it, any of the Spider-Man movies that are not made by Marvel, a lot of people are just like passing on them ultimately. But they have the license and they still have the rights as far as Sony is concerned. So they want to try to get their money's worth. And so far, I don't think it's working out too well, or at least not to their expectations. So Madam Web is just going to be one of those that even some of the stars that were in the movie were just like, look, it was a paycheck. I was hired to do a film. I played a role. That's about it. I'm not I'm not defending it more
Mhm.
than that. So the fact that that was February, and I remember seeing it on video on demand, and now we're in May, so Tuesday, yeah, just a few months. That's a pretty quick window for all that to turn around in, and that's you know a combination of it bombing in the theater, the way that streaming platforms now are trying to compete with one another and make sure that people do go to their platform first. I mean, for the longest time, again with the Sony Pictures, all the Spider-Man films, if you wanted to get them, you would either have to buy them on DVD or Blu-ray, and you could only get it on Stars, which is a Sony owned streaming platform or channel if you're watching on TV. So it was for cable subscribers, you have to pay extra to get Stars. If you then you get access to the Stars app on your phone or device, whatever the case is, and you can watch them from there. So Disney and Sony would have to like negotiate as far as when the Spider-Man films would come to Disney Plus, which, to be honest, they should just like cut a deal saying, hey, look, we'll let it go to your platform. Just give us a percentage. But
All right, there we go.
greedy bastards want to be greedy. So they're like, no, it's going to stay on our platform until we say so. But no, it's, you and I have talked about this before, where as far as all the competition on cable, where all these different networks are competing with one another, that's one thing. And then you've got different cable companies. You know, in this area, it would be Optimum or Verizon are the two options around here ultimately. And that was your what you had to deal with as far as your choices. But now with being able to stream and being able to watch things online, you can watch something in your living room. You can watch something while you're going to work. You can watch some, you know, if you're commuting on a bus or a train, you can watch something on an airplane. If you download it to your device, whatever the case is, you can literally have everything on the go. So now streaming platforms are just another way of saying, hey, look, we're vying for your dollar and we want to give you the best available. For them to say that now they're going to be combining all those platforms, Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO Max, that's just like, the streaming platforms or the streaming wars are not going the way that people thought they would. And that was that a lot of these companies are like, oh, we'll make our own streaming platform. I know you and I have talked about, you know, BBC for a while had their own streaming platform and all the Doctor Who episodes would be showing up there. So that way you would be forced to watch them that way. But now Disney again has the newer version of Doctor Who that's coming out, because there is a new Doctor coming, and all those episodes will be on Disney Plus. I don't know if they're having any joint venture with BBC, but maybe over in, you know, overseas, and maybe that'll be the case. Well, they'll show up specifically on the BBC platform over there, but over here you need to get them on Disney Plus. So it makes things more chaotic and more hectic. And if you have a VPN, great, because you can watch whatever you want in whichever territory or whatever country, but I don't know. This whole thing just seems to be getting more out of hand and unwieldy, to the point where they're realizing that, hey, we're losing money. Hey, we're losing subscribers. Maybe we should combine forces and try to salvage whatever this is.
Or, you know what the depressing part about all of this is?
What's that?
The easiest way for them to get their fucking goddamn subscribers back is to just drop the fucking price and stop with this tiered bullshit. I mean, it's simple. It's like, well, why aren't we doing this well anymore? It's like, why can't we just it's like, charge a reasonable price. Fucking goddamn, don't play these games where it's like, oh, if you pay us $15 a month, you'll have to watch commercials. But if you pay us $25, you don't get commercials. No, fuck that. No.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because the early...
They're going to go reinvent the wheel like a bunch of assholes.
The early idea of streaming would be that if you're going to watch something, you're going to watch it commercial free. I mean, that was the big draw of Netflix. You can binge something without have to be worried about having commercials or ads play either during the show, before the show, or after the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for the most part, the only ads you would have on Netflix were for other Netflix shows at the end of your movie or at the end of your whatever episode you're watching. But now, you know, you rush forward however many years since the inception of streaming Netflix. Now you have Amazon Prime Video that's putting ads in the middle of their content. I mean, it's one thing when you start a movie on Amazon Prime Video, you would get one or two like 10-second, maybe 15-second commercials or ads for other stuff on the platform. But now, I think I'd mentioned it on here, I was watching a comedy special, and 2 or 3 breaks happened during the hour. Mind you, a comedy special is usually about an hour and a half, maybe. And you're getting all these ad breaks. You're like, what the hell's going on here? You're like interrupting a joke. And for a comedy special, that makes or breaks it. Like, come on, that don't fuck with it. But yeah, I would agree with you. If they would reduce the price and not have to worry about it as much, you will get a lot more people going on. You'd probably get less people sharing passwords. That was another thing that was going on with Netflix. They cracked down and they say they've had great results from it. But they even said that starting, I believe, this coming quarter or the next year, they're going to stop giving out subscriber numbers. And that makes sense because the last time they did that, where they said they lost X amount of subscribers, what's going to happen to their stock price? It's gonna plummet because people are like, oh gosh, this isn't doing so well. Well, that's speculation. That people predicting, forecasting, and just generally playing, pretty much like playing a board game online, like Monopoly, essentially, when it comes to stock prices. But yeah, I don't blame them. I just read the different subscriber numbers that they lost between some of the different platforms. Yeah, I mean, that you can measure certain metrics that way on the performance of a streaming service, but long term, I don't think that's the way to go. I mean, if you're gonna get exclusive rights to, let's say, like Prime Video, they're doing the continuation of oh gosh, what was it? House of the Dragon. Was that the continuation of the Game of Thrones?
Yeah, Game of Thrones.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, because there's House of the Dragon. There's also the Wheel of Time, which finally got made into a series, and then there wasn't another series they had, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head now. Oh, they're actually going to be making another Lord of the Rings series that takes place in a different era of the Lord of the Rings universe. So all those different things, like you're going to have them on Amazon Prime. You're like, oh, okay, great. Like you go there. But then HBO Max, which had a strong offering, especially when they finally, made the change over to Max, you had the DC universe, which then became the HBO Go or HBO Now streaming app. And then they condensed all that into HBO Max, and they were bringing everything to you at that point. But then they combined with Disney, and there was some weird merger going on. So then now a lot of the Max stuff is showing up over on Netflix, even on Amazon Prime. It's just like, what the? Can we stop like fucking with the rebranding and the merging? And it just makes things more confusing. And then even still, when I want to go find something, I can't find it. A good example is, I know I've mentioned as far as like James Bond movies. For some reason, the one 007 movie, Spectre, with Daniel Craig, I can't find it anywhere for free streaming as far as a platform. Like I could rent it, I can buy it. But let's face it, I don't want to spend the money. I'm already paying money for the platform. So please, one of you fuckers, put it up on your streaming platform. I mean, I know it's a slot on your servers, but come on, help me out here. Just about every other James Bond movie of the modern era is available to stream on one platform or another. And then recently I watched The Equalizer with Denzel Washington.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, this is a movie I've been waiting to watch for quite some time. It finally popped up, I think it was on Netflix. So I sat down and watched it when I was doing stuff in the living room again. I'm like, oh, that was great. I heard that there was, 2 sequels. I searched and, there's Equalizer 3. Oh, great, I'll get to that one. Go searching for Equalizer 2. Can't find it anywhere. I was like, you motherfuckers, for a completionist who wants to watch them in order, you're a pain in my ass. But I guess that's what we have to deal with if they're going to, say on which movie goes where and what ends up in a different platform or destination. What was the other one? So Paramount Plus was another one. Paramount Plus is partnered or at least, co-owned by Nickelodeon. I don't know exactly how the hierarchy goes in that one, but Nickelodeon is involved in Paramount Plus because that's their studio. Just about every single Ninja Turtles movie, show, or cartoon exists on Paramount Plus.
Huh, okay.
So if you want to watch the classics, you can watch them. If you want to watch the original live action movies, they're there. The different series that came out in the aughts and then later on, especially with the new remake and the new movie with Seth Rogen and company, Mutant Mayhem, that's all on Paramount Plus, and you can watch it all you want there. So if you're a Ninja Turtles fan, go for it. Otherwise, if you go looking elsewhere, you have to rent or buy. And Amazon Prime in particular loves to cock tease you. Mm-hmm. So you'll find the thumbnail of something that you're looking for. Like, oh, there it is. And you go to click on it and it goes, rent or buy. And like, fuck you. But I don't know. That's it's becoming tricky as far as the streaming platforms, and it's very tribal in the idea that, if you want to watch this movie, you have to come to us. Otherwise, you can't watch it, or you have to pay more. And it's just like, what the, like, this was not the intention of the internet as far as watching stuff. Now, I get it. Like, paywalls are going to exist. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that they want to get their money. Subscriber premiums are not enough. But I do agree with you that I think that, yeah, they need to stop screwing around and just flat out, like, this is their way to deal with their customers directly. Before, they had to go through cable providers. And remember when we had strikes or blackouts, where I remember a few years back, Food Network had some kind of dispute with Optimum. So they started running ads on their own channel or their own network when you're watching Food Network. Let's say if you're watching Iron Chef, and they're like, oh, on June 7th of blah, 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 whatever the time frame was, this channel will be blacked out due to contract disputes between Optimum and whatever parent company for Food Network. If we cannot reach an agreement by such and such date, we will not be available on Optimum anymore. You would have to go to a different platform or different channel or different service to get the content that you know and love. Then eventually they would hash out some kind of deal, and then it would continue. But streaming platforms cut out the middleman. So at most, all I really need to do is pay the cable company for internet access, which is gotten ridiculous for that alone. So whatever I don't know what the internet bill is for in your area, but like, if you want internet here, you have to have what they refer to as the triple play bundle, so you get a good price. Otherwise, they jack up the price of the internet.
What's a triple play bundle?
It's when you get cable, telephone, and internet.
It's just
It's
oh my god! Yeah, it's like you have to buy our landline.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a way for you to buy their services, and they'll give you, quote unquote, a better deal. Truth be told, we still have a landline. Only two people know the landline here, and that's me and Jen.
So here's a question for you out of curiosity.
What's that?
So if you don't mind me asking, how much do you have the triple play thing?
I do.
If you don't mind me asking, how much do you pay per month for that?
It's been a while since I've actually sat down with the bill, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like $200 nowadays.
Okay, interesting. Do you know how much it would be if you just got internet by itself?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do know that if you were to get it by itself, let's put it this way: the prices for TV and phone, if you eliminate one of those, the other ones go up.
Okay.
So it's like a sliding scale, essentially. And it's been a while since I've looked at it. I probably should look at it again, to be honest, because I should get a little bit tighter with the budgeting around here. But yeah, the way that they play it out is that if you want to have these services, they'll give you a lower rate if you get all three. But if you eliminate any of the other ones, the other one or two go up. So I can see having cable and internet, because that people still rely on those for the most part today. But nowadays, everybody has a cell phone. So, but then again, they're even trying to sell you a cell phone service now through those providers. I'm just like, no, go the fuck away. I deal with enough bullshit from elsewhere. I don't need you also trying to give me offers. Cut it out.
Yeah, it's interesting because where I am, I usually have to like fuck with them and like get on the phone with them and do like a little bit of like, hey, what kind of deals can you do with me? But I pay about $100 a month for internet.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what cable or anything else because I've got my cell phone through something else, and yeah, I don't need a landline. And interestingly enough, I've never in my life living on my own have ever bought cable.
Really?
Yeah, I was always, I've been, living with people or living on my own for 20 plus years now. And honestly, with it, it's not something that's ever really made a difference to me. So it was one of those things where I was like, why would I pay money? Like the first time I had my own apartment, I was living in Philadelphia. And somebody asked me, it's like, oh, are you going to get cable? And I thought, it's like, why would I do that? I'm living in a major city. If I'm at home, I'm going to watch a movie. Other than that, it's a city. I'm going to go do something fun. How about that? Like, I'm going to go out and do shit. So I'm gonna go run the streets and fuck off. I don't know.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I guess for me, I guess I was spoiled in a sense because when we were growing up, we lived in apartments and we didn't go out as much, but we did have access to cable.
Hmm.
So we were kind of roped in with the whole idea of, primetime viewing and sports and everything else. Because I remember my father would always be watching, whatever sports, football, baseball, or soccer. And then we would be watching different programs, whatever the case was. And truth be told, I grew up at a certain point, got hooked with wrestling during the Monday Night Wars. So I don't know, I don't recall if they were available off of cable. Like if you just had basic television. I don't remember what's off my head. But it's just to be said that I got used to having cable. So
Hmm.
not having cable, I don't think was ever an option for me because it was always there for me.
Okay.
And now, in a certain sense, actually, I should look at this now because and again, this is all how they sell it to you and how they upsell depending on the packages or the tiers that you're involved in. Again, more nonsense, but the package that I am currently subscribed to, it includes HBO so that I can have access to HBO Max. I don't have to pay a subscription fee for it every month. It's included with my cable bill.
Oh, okay.
So that's the nice thing about that. I think at one point they were trying to upsell me on stars. I'm like, no, I don't need stars. I'm good. I have enough streaming nonsense. But if I were to eliminate, yeah, I definitely have to look at this then. If I were to eliminate my cable bill, I would have to pay for HBO. I don't know how much that would all come out to. I'm sure it's like 15, $20 depending on, again, depending on the tier or version of it that you get. But I don't know if I lose access to anything else. Amazon is its own price monthly, oh, excuse me, yearly, actually, annual. Like it's included with your Amazon Prime subscription that you get Amazon Prime Video. Netflix has been steadily climbing. Hulu is part of a Disney bundle. It's complicated. I'm not going to sit here and do my bills on the show, but suffice to say, there will be certain things that you lose depending on what you cancel, depending on what you subscribe to. You might gain, and it's all just figuring out what configuration best suits you. But I agree with you completely. Like, you don't need all the platforms. I think we're
No.
only subscribed to maybe like a handful of them, and that's just because of the originals that are available on them. So when I say that, I mean like Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, and then HBO Max. I think there's like a couple other ones here and there. But if you can't find what you're looking for within a handful of platforms, or even two to three, let's say,
Hmm.
there's then you really don't need the other ones. Are you gonna really have a fourth or fifth, a sixth platform just for one title or for one series? It
No. Why would you?
exactly. It makes little to no sense. I just recently remembered because I was watching it last night. I am subscribed to Apple TV, but it was only because of a deal that came up. They're like, "Oh, the first year is free, and then afterwards we'll charge you." I'm like, "What? What am I getting charged for?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck! I've been getting charged for Apple TV, and I didn't realize it." But I recently watched Monarch, which was a series set in the MonsterVerse from Legendary Films. So it's the company that's behind the research of Godzilla and King Kong and all that. Now they're making a series where they tell the human story, the background story, essentially, on how all that came to be. I'm like, all right, let me, at the very least, if I'm getting charged for this, let me check out this series. And then I'm probably going to do what most people do is once you're finished with a series, you cancel your subscription.
Yep.
It's what a lot of people were doing with The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, which is probably another reason why they lost so many subscribers because people will re-up for whatever series, movie, or show and say, okay, I'll watch this. But then once they get their fill, like, all right, I got bills to pay and I don't need this on a monthly recurring cycle. So,
Yeah.
and the way things are going nowadays, especially with the economy and with inflation or, price gouging, however you want to look at it, things aren't getting cheaper. And the idea that they're
Nope.
going to keep upping their prices and they're not giving you really much more bang for your buck. So yeah, vote with your dollars and say, fuck off. If you're going to keep raising the price, I'm out of here.
Exactly.
So I think I have to learn how to put my foot down a little bit more because I'm a little bit lax when it comes to that myself, as I'm sitting here realizing how many things I'm actually subscribed to. There was I know there's more than one service out there where you can sign up and they'll check your monthly recurring bills and they'll ask you the question, hey, are you still, subscribed to this, or do you want to be subscribed to this, or do you want to cancel? And the idea is that it helps you get rid of different monthly charges that are recurring and that you just kind of like become nose blind to. Like, oh, I didn't realize I was still paying for that kind of thing.
That's why I hate setting up auto pay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another one. Yes, that's exactly how they get you, because it's just a recurring bill. You don't think about it. The money is automatically taken out of your account, and you just become used to it.
Yeah, you don't think about it, and that's the big problem in my eyes.
I think the funny thing is those services, I think they charge you a monthly fee as well.
Well, of course they do. They're not going to do it for free.
Well, you would hope, but no. Yeah, everybody wants your dollar. Everybody's going to compete. Everybody's going to try to get what they can out of you. But yeah, to go from the cable wars now over to the streaming wars, the streaming wars are turning out a lot differently than what a lot of people expected it to be. Because everybody thought that everybody's going to have their own the little walled garden, essentially, where they have their own films. So like every studio essentially would have its own film. Like New Line would have its own, or Paramount, which does have its own Paramount Plus. They're going to have their own platform or streaming program. But no, it's not as cost effective as they would have thought to be able to have servers up and running on a monthly cycle to house all these titles. Again, movies, TV shows, whatever the case is. If you're going to house them somewhere, you need to pay for the upkeep, and that upkeep doesn't come cheap. And they're going to pass that expense on to the subscribers, to the users. And that's where, the prices go up eventually after a while. Some of them might start out like what, less than $10 maybe. But now Netflix itself is like what, $20-25 a month for streaming, I think.
That's a good question. I actually don't know. I've been using Jimmy's streaming for about 8-9 years now, I think.
Well, it's because you live together, right?
Well, once again, if according to my computer, yes, we do.
There you go. I do
I have a
believe.
mighty big apartment. It runs from Pennsylvania all the way out to Taiwan.
There you go. See, that works out.
Yeah.
That's one hell of a. Oh man, the land title alone. That's a lot of ground to cover. But Bob Iger, again, CEO for Disney, who let's not forget, he came back recently because the other CEO who was put in place after him just wasn't getting the job done. So Mr. Iger had to come back to kind of right the ship a little bit. But let's face it, it's tough times all around. He's been talking about how Netflix recently instituted their password crackdown and how well it's worked out for them. And that's what helped Netflix regain their stock price. They dropped down to like, what was it, like $200 or so?
Yeah, it was something like that about 2 years ago.
Yeah, now they bounced back. They're about like $600 a share. I don't mean to bore anybody out there with, stock prices, but that was just an indication of just how silly it was when they're like, oh, we lost X amount of subscribers. Price goes down. Oh, we're cracking down on passwords now. Now we're making people pay for the content so they can watch the shows and movies they love. Oh, okay. So now the price goes back up. So Disney wants to do a password crackdown. I think some of the other platforms want to do it as well. But now if they're going to be doing the combination or the bundles, it's like, what does that mean? Like, how does that work out? So what if you were part of two platforms already and now you're going to get, okay, cool, you're going to get a third one added to your bundle, quote unquote, but does your price get reduced or does it stay the same? It's all stuff for the bean counters to figure out. And
well, therein lies what's going to happen. So wait a minute, you said this is going to be, what was it, Hulu, Disney, and HBO Max or whatever the fuck it is now?
yes.
Okay. I don't know how much each of those is individually, just by virtue of the fact that The only time I've ever used any of those, I was actually getting like somebody was letting me use their password back before they cracked down on all of that.
Okay.
So, but if it's like I can honestly see them charging $40 to $50 for this with commercials and $60 to $75 commercial free.
Holy shit.
That's just my speculation here, but I think I don't. And part of the problem is they looked at what, and yeah, it's correct. Netflix, they did this and it worked out in their favor. But here's the thing: correlation or correlation is not causation.
Yes.
Do we really know what exactly drove Netflix's stock to go triple in the last 2 years? I don't think so. Or maybe I don't know. I'm not a stock analyst. I don't know. But if we're already at this point now where they're basically doubling down on this, they said, "Oh, we're going to our stock prices. We raised all of our prices and cracked down on sharing, so that means we're going to drive everything back up." I don't know how this is going to work out for them. I'm kind of curious to see how this one plays out.
Yeah. When it comes to the stock market, especially, for unknowns, and I say that with streaming platforms, that they're still relatively unknown. WWE, back when they first went public,
Mm-hmm.
and you could buy shares of WWE, the market didn't know how to gauge it. They didn't know by what metric they can measure them by. So their stock price jumped all over the place over the few years that they were available. With that said, that's all speculation. That's all the stock market is. It's people guessing where you're going to be in three months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, whatever the case is. They're trying to guess where the market is going to be, or how you're going to be competing in that market, and how you compete with other similar companies or other platforms, whatever the case is. So you and I saw the WWE stock price jump up and bottom out sometimes because they didn't know how to gauge it.
Mm-hmm.
But with Netflix, which has become now, they've been around for quite some time. They're one of the leaders when it comes to streaming. Now they have a better idea how to gauge it compared to other platforms. So they'll have somewhat of a metric to go off of. And I say this somewhat because although that's been doing well for them for quite some time now, again, for them to say, "Oh, we lost X amount of subscribers," then the price plummets. Why? Because people are afraid and they're speculating that they're going to be performing worse in the coming months or year, that they just want to, sell off and hope to stave off any losses. So it's all speculation. All that nonsense. It's bullshit. You're playing with imaginary money on the stock market. That's all it comes down to. You're have realized gains, unrealized gains. If you sell too soon, you might lose out on extra profit. If you sell too long down the road, you might lose money. Whatever the case is, it's all hoping that your $10 will become $1,000, but come to find out you lost $9. It's like, how do you gauge that? What money did you really make? What money did you lose? You started off with $10. You can make more than your $10. Great. You could also lose your $10. Sorry. And that's not getting into like options and holds and everything else. That becomes a little bit more complex even in that whole area. Jimmy's tried to explain it to me a few times. It's like if you watch the ending of Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's a great example. I will give them all the credit in the world for that movie. It's, when they're doing the futures for the orange crop, how much are the farmers going to be able to produce? And at one point they file a fake report saying that the crop's going to be down, and it drives the price up. And then when they realize that the report was incorrect and the prices come down, if you watch the last 20 minutes of that movie, you either get it or you don't. But because of speculation, because people are using different forecasts and reports to go off of what they believe is going to happen down the line, that's where you want to be buying in or selling off. It's like the one quote I remember from Wayne Gretzky, famous hockey player, for anybody who doesn't know who Wayne Gretzky is nowadays. You want to be where the puck's going to be, not where it's at.
Hmm.
And that's the idea of speculation and prediction. So you're hoping that you're going to be in the right place to get that right shot to score the big win and win the game, or you're going to be in the wrong place, wrong time, and you're going to lose out. And
Mm.
because the human race has this fear of missing out, idea essentially, like if you should buy in now, because otherwise you're not going to be part of the group, you're not going to be part of the celebration, you're going to miss out on this fun stuff. So people will throw money at something, hoping it's going to, hit big for them, only to find out 9 times out of 10, you got some bad info, or you just, made the wrong call. Now you're out whatever investment you put in, essentially, time or money. But that's what's coming down now for all these, is that everybody thought that streaming platforms were going to be the future of viewing. And for the most part, it is. Let's face it, online streaming is absolutely the way it should go. If I want to watch a movie or if I want to watch a TV show, I don't have to watch it at, Monday night at 8 o'clock like we used to watch wrestling all the time. That's changed. If I want to watch a movie, sure, let's have the open release window in the theaters for the first month or two, whatever the case is. You get a chance to go in the theaters. Let's make it a fun experience to go out, watch a movie, get some popcorn, soda, whatever, and enjoy it out there in a community setting. But otherwise, I want to be able to buy it or stream it at home when I want, or I should say where I want. So again, at home, on the bus, on the airplane, sitting in the laundromat, or whatever the case is. I don't, at the gym while you're working out, just have the ability to watch it wherever you want. It should come down to that. And get rid of all the fucking ads. The reason streaming happened is because people were sick and tired of all the commercials. And then on top of that, like you said as well, reiterating your point, is drop the prices. If you get more people on board, you don't have to charge as much, hopefully. I don't know exactly how storage works for these services, how much server space they have to buy up. I can tell you one thing, though. Amazon is the one making all the money because they pretty much house all the different servers. So everybody's renting their equipment. Nowadays, supposedly, if I remember correctly, if you go to an Amazon distribution center, or no, I'm sorry, that's not the right term. Distribution centers where they do all their shipping and receiving for their product that they ship out that you buy online. But if you go to their server centers, you actually have to sign in because it's they have government restrictions and regulations you have to follow, because even the government rents server space from Amazon, so they have to make sure that they have tight security. So if you're a Netflix representative and you go to a certain location, if your server just happens to be an Amazon server, you have to follow government regulations as far as signing in, credentials, and everything else to make sure that they don't have any shenanigans going on with, outside agents or provocateurs, whatever you want to refer to them as. But yeah, it's weird how it all plays out nowadays. But such is the streaming wars that we currently live in. Like for me, if I want to watch my Avengers movies, Disney Plus is the place to go. I'm sure I could go to YouTube, like rent or buy it there, but why? I'm already paying for one subscription. I don't have to pay for an additional one.
Yeah.
So,
Or the other thing that I found myself doing lately is getting back into buying DVDs.
yes, absolutely. Which is something that's what I came across with the Equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm gonna buy it, I might as well buy it in a hard copy. I still have a few disc players over here, whether it's a game console or independent disc player, where I could easily put it in there. Or if you wanted to be, savvy, you can actually buy an old computer and just get a large hard drive for it. Set up your own little server in house so that you can buy your films, make backups of them, store them to your computer, and then be able to stream that info from your computer to your TV, and you'll have your own in-house streaming platform essentially.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of friends, when we were, going through, so when Netflix was doing DVDs by mail, people would get the DVDs, rip the data from the DVD, make a copy of it essentially. So let's say The Matrix. rent The Matrix from Netflix, make a copy of it. You have the DVD itself now on whatever CDR, DVD-R recordable disc, but then you would upload it to a server, and that way you'll have your own personal collection. Now you have to make sure that you have backups or whatever the case is, because if it gets corrupted, then you're fucked. That's a whole different story. That's just maintenance on a computer in general. But like, okay, so another good example is I'm watching this on the big screen in my living room. My television is a smart TV.
Okay.
So it has apps and programs that run in the background. I know this because every now and then it'll do an update and it'll tell me that I have the latest firmware. The other day, one of my apps was going to update, but it says, oh, you don't have enough space for them. Like, how the hell do I have not enough space for an app on my television? What the fuck? So I deleted some that we don't use. But what's going to happen eventually is with all these different updates to, let's say, YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, eventually all those updates are going to grow as far as storage space. So my TV is going to run out of storage space sometime down the line. I don't know, a year, maybe 3 or 5 years down the line. But the TV is going to run out of space and I'm not going to be able to use it the way I would. At that point, your best bet is to stop using it as a smart television and just stream whatever you have off of your device, off your computers, directly to your television, because at that point you still have access to all of those applications, and now you're just having to connect to your television, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason they have it this way, it's planned obsolescence, so that eventually it'll force you to buy a new smart television down the line, with all the new bells and whistles, and hopefully increased storage space. But they're planning on this TV not being around as long as your previous ones, probably. Like your old CRTs, the old CRT TVs that we have, and I know you've had a few. Those just worked. You hooked up your cable, or you had your rabbit ears, whatever the case was, and you're good to go.
Dude, my last CRT TV lasted me from 2001 until 2019.
There you go.
And it was still working fine. It was just one of those situations where somebody gave me a new TV, so I was like, I'm just getting rid of this now because, yeah, I was like, it was also getting kind of annoying because it's like, oh, cool, I want to check out some streaming stuff. And I realized that, whatchamacallit, it's like, well, I had the only things I had on that TV were the input for the coaxial cable and the 3 hookups for the red, white, and yellow.
Yep.
So that's, yeah, I wasn't hooking, there were no HDMI plugs on the thing.
And again, it's them trying to make sure that you'll get your new equipment or your new hardware, but they want to make sure that they're going to see you in a lot sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these TVs, depending on the parts, so in our previous flat screen TV, we had an old one, and we had it in the, I think it was like 07, 08 we bought our first flat screen TV.
Okay.
When Jen and I first moved in together and we were just like, figuring out what we wanted to do, the first thing we said, look, we play games, we watch movies, so one of the centerpieces of our home is going to have to be entertainment. So we made sure we had a nice TV back then. And at the time, they were expensive for flat screens, not as much as nowadays. Nowadays, they're relatively cheap. But that TV lasted us almost 15 years, I want to say.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for a flat screen TV, it's not bad. But we had a few hiccups along the way. Early on, we had a problem where I think after 2-3 years, when you turn on a flat screen TV, most of them have a little chime or a little sound that they make to let you know it's been turned on.
Yeah.
So our old Samsung would have this little chime that would play. Well, one time we noticed that it would play, the TV would turn off. It would play, the TV would turn off. It did 3 or 4 times in a row, and then it would just stop. What the hell's going on? Come to find out that Samsung had gotten some different parts for their production run on certain lines, that the capacitors for the TVs, they were a little bit cheaper quality than other ones. So after time, those capacitors would just fail. And this is getting into the electronics aspect of it, so don't mind me, I'm just nerding out here. Electrolytic capacitors, whenever you look at a circuit board and you see these raised silver parts, the little cylinders with black bottoms, Those
Okay.
are the capacitors. And the idea for the capacitor is that they charge up to a certain extent, store energy, and then release it so that it would have a constant flow, but it would be so it doesn't overload the circuit essentially. It's just another way for the circuit to be more stable. After time, because there is a type of fluid in these capacitors, electrolytic, they dry out over time. And then you'll see them, there's a telltale sign of it. They usually have a flat top to them. But if they fail, they start to bubble up. So the top of the cylinder starts to bulge. That's how you know that electrolytic capacitor is no good anymore. We called in the repair guy. Thankfully, it was still under warranty. He came in with a handful of capacitors. He took our TV off the stand, put it on the floor, popped the whole thing open, and I watched as he started to desolder the capacitors out of the control board and putting in new ones. To which I looked over at Jen. I'm like, I knew it. It was a fucking capacitor issue. But I'd already paid for the service plan, so there's no reason for me to get in there. Let somebody else take care of it. He came in, did the job, taken care of, no problem. Years later, it eventually died on us. No warning, no nothing, just boom. Okay. I tried fixing it. It was a different issue. It was no longer the capacitors. Something else had gone down on the set. I thought I could fix it. I spent more time and effort on it than I probably should have. Said, fuck it, we're just going to get a new TV. So 15 years out of a TV is not bad. But I don't know what the lifespan of these are going to be. And I hope and pray that this TV lasts longer. I didn't pay anywhere near what I paid for the original one, but most TV screens now are becoming cheaper and cheaper because the technology has become cheaper and cheaper over years, that the hardware is not as expensive. So the idea is nowadays, if something goes wrong with something that you own, fuck it, throw it away, get a new one.
And that's part of the problem right there.
Yeah. People don't want to spend the time and or money to try to fix something. They would rather just toss it away and buy a new one and say, oh, this is not my problem anymore. So I try to hold on to things for a certain amount of time. I will, call it quits on something after a certain period and say it's just not worth it anymore. Especially, let's face it, if I still had a CRT TV and I was forced to get a flat screen, the technology has gotten so much better. The picture quality has gotten so much better. The form factor of a flat screen, they've gotten so much thinner and lighter that it's a good thing. It's beneficial to upgrade in certain extents. But if you had to do it every 3 or 4 years, you're just throwing money away. So trying to stretch them out, trying to make sure that you get your money's worth, that's definitely ideal when it comes to tech in any shape or form. But the industry just wants you to buy something new. And that's why, like we've talked about, right to repair, a lot of these companies say, oh no, you bought the TV, but it's not your television. It's our equipment. You are not allowed to open it up. You're not allowed to tinker with it. You're not allowed to repair your own television, phone, computer, tablet. Take your pick. Everybody says that you're not supposed to be doing that, but you can bring it to our authorized repair center and we'll charge you a fee for it, and then you can get it fixed through us. Bullshit. If I have something and I'm out, on a trip and it breaks down, I'm not going to go searching for an authorized repair center. I'm going to want to try to fix it if I have the tools and the know-how. Or if I have somebody who has the tools and know-how, who's a friend, that's not going to charge me a fee. Maybe you throw them a couple bucks or buy them a pizza, whatever the case is. But that's all to say that they are trying to lock down on stuff like that, and it doesn't help things any. So us as the consumer, as the customer, we should have the absolute authority and decision to buy what we want, watch what we want, when we want. And that's the goal, to go back to you're saying, buy hard copies. Absolutely. If you have a movie that you love and you don't want to sit there and try to search through Netflix or search through Amazon or whatever other platform, like, oh, I thought I saw it in here last month. Every month they cycle old titles out and new titles in. And again, that's server space. So your favorites might not be there. Eventually some of those might just go away. Addams Family. That's become popular again because they just announced that season 2 of Wednesday has begun production for Netflix. But yes, the old Addams Family movie, I don't know if it's on Netflix. I don't know if it's on any other streaming platform currently. I would have to go searching for it. Or, if I was lucky enough, go find a copy of it. There was a story recently where I think the DVD of 28 Days Later has shot up on the secondary market, the value of it, because they only made so many DVDs that they don't print them anymore. And that's coming off of the announcement of the next prequel, or excuse me, sequel of 28 Years Later that they're looking to make now.
Yes.
So because of that, they're like, oh, check your DVD collection because you might have an expensive DVD sitting amongst your other movies. Why? Like, DVDs should not be expensive. They cost, anywhere between $10 and $20 when they first came out, or if you got a collector's edition, probably a little bit more. But the idea that they become rare is because these companies didn't print them as wide as they probably should have, or didn't think that they would be as popular. You and I always talk about the movie The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. I still have not come across an actual DVD copy of it. I'm sure there's a couple out there, but it's not a movie that people. It's not as sought after as other titles out there. Let's put it that way. So because of it makes it rare. It makes it collectible. Another good example of a rare movie is Dogma from Kevin Smith. Due to the biblical nature of some of the characters in that film, what was it? The Weinstein Company owned the rights to the film, and yeah, it had a DVD release when it came to home video, but they didn't print more for fear of upsetting more groups, religious groups, and just thought, we'll just keep it to a certain run. That's it. But that film is hard to find on streaming, one, and is extremely hard to find on DVD as far as print runs. You can find them out there.
I just found it on DVD actually the other week.
Oh, where was it?
It was at a used DVD store in the Allentown area called Second and Charles. It was the two disc one with like the drawn cover.
Okay. And out of curiosity, how much was it?
$5.
What?
No, I'm serious. I was walking through there and I was like, and I just saw it sitting on the shelf, and it was the special edition. Yeah, it was the special edition that came out a couple of years, loaded with extras. Pardon me, $5.85.
Oh.
As soon as I saw it, I just grabbed it. I was like, I want a copy of this because I think it's the same one I gave, because I had a copy of this I gave to you like 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I still don't know where I put it. I know.
Well, I have another copy too, so we're good now.
Okay.
No, it's and the other thing is, last I heard, it's never going to get printed again because Weinstein owns the rights to it and all that shit. So
yeah, and that's another scenario of an unfortunate case where the studio is like, we don't see the reason to re-release this, like unless like they wanted to cash in on an anniversary release of the film in the theater. Then there's no reason to make another one. Why spend the extra money to gear up the factory and say, we're going to make another DVD copy of this? So, but yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. I'm sure if you go look online, there's collectors clubs and different websites that say, these are some of the rare DVDs out there. It's kind of like coin collecting. Like if you have this mint of a quarter or a penny, whatever the case is, it's worth X amount, because it's hard to find. I mean, the Dogma you can take to a Kevin Smith show, have him sign it, and then resell it for a ridiculous amount.
Oh, they already there's still even like a healthy amount of people out there who collect and buy and sell and trade VCRs and VHS tapes.
Yes. VCRs, VHS, and also, funny enough, old CRTs.
I believe it.
Some old televisions. So when people are getting rid of old televisions and you see them on the curb in front of homes or some businesses, there are people that'll come out there, depending on the equipment, and say, oh my God, you got this? Because they like the picture quality off of an old CRT for old video games and old movies. They just had a certain look to them. There's a reason why certain video games, when they get remastered or remade digitally, they don't have the same look. So much so that they try to add like a filter in-game to them where you can actually toggle it on and off. So it'll give it that old picture quality look to it. So if you're not used to seeing it a certain way, or in the new refreshed version of it, you can get as close as possible to the old CRT version of it. And I don't know, that's right up there with like audiophiles and everything else. People who say that, you know, vinyl is better than CD. I mean, yes, there is a difference in quality, but how much of a difference is it going to really make to you on a regular basis? That's your preference at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm all for it. If you can find a copy of something that you like, if you come across an old movie, I know I mentioned the Monster Squad back in November. They made a Blu-ray with some extras and new artwork for the cover and everything. That's one I want to hunt down. There's a few on a short list of movies that I want. I think at this point I own like 2 copies. No, more than that. Like 3 or 4 copies of the Transformers movie from '86. And
Okay.
that's because they just made different versions of them over the years for like anniversary copies. The Crow, I've owned different copies of that one on VHS and DVD at this point. And I've mentioned before that I've recently bought the Blu-ray just so I could have now a digital version on my phone so I can watch The Crow whenever I want, if the mood arises. But yeah, if you want a film and you want to hold on to it and you don't want to go through the hassle of trying to figure out, oh, let me type into Google, such and such streaming for free. And you'll get like a list of 10 different platforms. You can buy it here. You can rent it here. You could get it here, or it's no longer available. Skip all that bullshit. If you really love the movie that much, buy it. I'm actually considering going to buy the John Wick movies. Just because they're fun. Like the choreography for the gunfights and everything else. They're fun to watch. They're popcorn movies. But I tried watching it. I think it was on, unless it was either Paramount or Peacock. I can't remember which one. But they had it available with commercials added in. And I'm like, who the fuck's watching John Wick with commercials? that's ridiculous.
I don't know. It's some people. Someone's doing it somewhere. I'm sure of it. I don't know.
I'm sure, but the right way to watch it is just watch it as a regular movie as it was intended. I know they want their revenue dollars. That's not on you to give it to them. So, again, streaming platforms, kind of crazy. See what happens, especially after these mergers are going to start happening and these bundles are going to start coming together. But absolutely, if there's a film out there you want it, buy it. If there's equipment that you want to hold on to, fix it. Take care of it. Maintain it. Otherwise, it's just like you're just pissing money out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not Jeff Bezos. So, I think, there was a story. He's having a mansion built. So he bought like other homes, or he bought another home to stay in while his mansion is being built. So he's spending like ridiculous amounts of money, like millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, just so he can have a home built. I'm like, motherfucker. Oh well.
And this is why billionaires should not exist.
Yes, the haves and the have-nots. But
I think of it this way: it's not even a question of that. Did I ever? I don't know if I ever did this exercise with you. Do you know the difference between a million and a billion?
We have done this. Yes, I don't remember the answer off the top of my head, but we broke down as far as like the amount of money and time and everything else. Yes.
All right. For the sake of, I'll make it quick, and for
Sure.
the sake of anybody who has not heard this before, if you do the math and you take a million seconds and then you divide it into minutes, then divide it to hours, then divide that into days, and then subtract that from today, a million seconds ago was 11 days ago. A billion seconds ago was about 31 years ago. If that doesn't speak volumes on just what kind of money you're talking about there, because it's tough to think about it, because a billion is, fundamentally speaking, it's a million 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more money than, I don't know what the hell people are doing, but what the fuck are you going to do with $1 billion? Let alone 50 billion or 75 billion or 100 billion. And at that point, it just makes you think, at that point, if somebody hoards anything, we look at them as somebody having a mental illness, except when they hoard cash. And then all of a
That's
sudden,
a good point.
and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, these people are wonderful and they're role models. The fuck that they are. So yeah, if somebody makes a bunch of money or they gets a good paying job and they just want to like fucking live comfortably and have some nice stuff, that's fine. I don't give a shit. But when you get to the point where it's like, look at me, I have 50 billion, but I need more. I look at that person as like, okay, there's something wrong with you. And you know as well as I have, some of these jerk offs like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or some of them, so they've actually sat down and they probably in their heads were figuring out, okay, I want to be the world's first trillionaire.
Oh God.
Somebody's thought about this.
To
Like at this point, I think we have records. I want to say we have 1,000 billionaires, over 1,000 billionaires, something like that. We have a ridiculous amount of billionaires in the world these days. So.
That's insane.
Yep.
And that's here in the States, mind you. That's when you say people who are billionaires, trillionaires. That's recorded or reported money. When you go overseas to some of these royal families that have oil money, that they're not even telling you how much they have.
To my knowledge, nobody's come close to the trillionaire label, as far as I know. Interestingly enough, I believe one of the richest people in history, and this is all estimates because there was no tracking of it, was Pablo Escobar.
I believe it, yeah. I think he lost more money to rats than anything else.
You are correct. Every month, his accountants wrote off a certain amount of money, a certain percentage of it, and that was solely just because of rats in warehouses were eating it.
Yeah.
But I've heard estimates anywhere from back in the 1980s when he was at the peak, and he was basically controlling. If you did cocaine in the late 1980s, there was a good chance you were snorting something he had a hand in the distribution of. But I've heard estimates anywhere from 10 billion up to $50 billion, and this was 35, 40 years ago.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it's the same thing. Let's put it this way, on a quick other scale of it. So, for somebody like me, I commute, and I'm usually like in the same neighborhood. I really don't go outside unless it's a special occasion for anywhere that I go. Like, it's usually in my same different routes. So, I go to work, I come back, we go out places to eat or watch the movies or go have fun with the kids. We really don't travel outside our normal routes. That's me. But for somebody who's on a globe-trotting scale, like for me, going to the store is akin to them like saying, "Oh, I need to fly from the West Coast to the East Coast." It's all a matter of perspective, like what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go. Where it's your norm or it's your comfortable, or I should say, your comfort level of what you're willing to do. So you and I operate at a certain monetary level. For guys like Bezos or Musk, who have a lot more financial resources, they operate on a different scale entirely. And it's fucking ridiculous sometimes. But it's like, what can you do? What are you willing to do to try to work up to that scale? And really, in the long run, is it really fucking worth it? Because it sounds like the old adage, more money, more problems. So, I don't know. That's an open-ended question for everybody to answer for themselves. Because if you're not comfortable with added nonsense and added complications, then maybe your situation isn't so bad. Mm-hmm. Money is not the answer to all problems, but motherfucker, it will solve quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll see what happens. But I do believe we have hit our mark and then some tonight. How do you feel, sir?
Tired.
When I first started the whole, I'm like, oh, well, maybe we'll talk about the streaming news. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. Now we're going to snowball too much about the shit. It's delightful to see where we end up sometimes. But that's all to say that if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. My name is Eric Hernandez.
I'm Doug.
And we are the Rabblecast.